She thought she was more NRM than its founders, not knowing they will use you and then dump you, throw you under the bus.
Joel, a lot has been happening in the country, especially surrounding the Speaker of Parliament, and to be specifically the sheer level of corruption. And sometimes people know that in Uganda there's a lot of corruption. Sometimes when they get to see the magnitude, I don't know, they see the clear picture of what is happening. I think that there's that extra shock that comes with it. But also that has come up with the Speaker of Parliament, the Emeritus Speaker of Parliament, Anita Among. I think she's at the verge of being arrested following that investigation. We hope that she is. But she also said she's not going to stand in the next Parliament. So we can ably say she's a former Speaker. Now the question I want to ask you is, many years from now, maybe 2 decades from now, people will look down and say there was the 12th Parliament.
11th.
There was the 11th Parliament. And while they will say there was Speaker Among, there was Joel Ssenyonyi, the leader of opposition. As someone who was actively part, how would you want these people to remember the 11th Parliament?
No, in reality, the 11th Parliament has let down the people of Uganda. That's something that I've been on record to say. You see, the vision of Parliament is an interesting one. To be a people-centered Parliament. Think about that for a minute.
Yes.
And each time I kept asking, ranting, and I would ask the Speaker, I said, but look, we are supposed to be a people-centered Parliament. What's people-centered about the things we do? And so I would ask, these laws that you bring here that are targeting individuals, targeting this, to oppress people some more, the lack of accountability. How do you say you're people-centered and yet this is how you behave, this is how you operate? The concerns of the people don't get to be the concerns of the august house. So yes, as the 11th Parliament, I am not afraid to say we have let down the people of Uganda. Each parliament has had its ills. There's the parliament that removed term limits. There's the parliament that kept coming and doing all manner of things. Then eventually this one that removed the age limit, that's the 10th Parliament, and so on and so forth. I think from where I sit, we have let the people down. Yes, there have been voices, and I appreciate the voices that have been loud on our side, the opposition side, but also even on the NRM side. There's voices that kept speaking out. That's been imperative.
What I'm going to add, because that's the summary of it, but you are, I think, first-time member of Parliament. You had come from, I think, corporate world, best practices. When you entered Parliament, is there a time you remember that this is what I saw and happened that made me realize things are not okay?
Yeah, you see, with corporate governance, there is a proper leadership structure. Who reports to who? In the corporate world, when you're hired, you're given a JD, a job description. Do's and don'ts, what you're supposed to do, what is within your ambit and what is outside of it. And so your boss cannot require of you to do what is not within your realm of work. And so it's clear what you're supposed to do. So I get to the 11th Parliament and I start off as chairperson of a committee, COSASE. As I begin to do my work, the rules are clear on what the roles of a chairperson are and how we are meant to operate. All of a sudden, the speaker is becoming preponderant. She literally wants to take over the committee. I told her at one point, do you want to become co-chair of the committee? Because as we were investigating different people, the most famous one, of course, was Uganda Airlines, but there's a plethora of entities that we investigated and dug up issues. So some of these people would approach her, and so she would either call or even write. At times you put on, in writing and say, leave this entity, now keep the media out, now do this. And I said, but can you leave me to operate? Yes, you're the supervisor as speaker, but come in if I am now going outside of the law. But you are telling me now to slow down on this particular entity. Why? Why do you want me to leave them alone? Then in another case, you're saying, keep the media out. One of the fights I had with her at the start, with Uganda Airlines, as we were going hard, she called first, said, no, I think the media should be left out. I asked why. He said it's now all over the place and so on. I said, actually, I thought this should be a good thing that we're exposing the road. So I didn't budge. 2 days later, she wrote. Said, now, keep the media out. I'm guiding as head of the institution. I wrote back. I said, I disagree with you because we have been investigating all these other entities with the media present. Now, when we keep the media out for this one, it's as if there's something to hide. And I said, look, the way we operate, sometimes the witness will say, kindly keep the media out for a bit. There's something I want to share in confidence. Who would do that? When we're investigating KCCA, the then head of KCCA, Dorothy Chisaka, at one time she requested and said, there's something I would want to share, but in camera. So we requested the media to step out for an hour or so, and that's allowable, that can happen. But to blanketly say, keep the media away, I said no. So we had that back and forth, and but I kept digging in my heels. I said, I'm the chairperson of the committee. You're my superior, yes, but this is my territory. Allow me to handle it as should be. So those are things that are in corporate governance. The structure is clear, who does what. You know, in the corporate world, my boss would not roughshod over me, even though they were my boss, because the roles were clear. In Parliament, it became a different thing altogether.
Do you think that, especially for people outside there who don't know how Parliament operates, would you say that the biggest problem is the structure and how the system is designed to, for example, suffocate people like you who are trying to enforce accountability? Or it also has to do with the individual in charge of Parliament? Let's say now that the problem may not be Parliament or even the government,